I've got a bone to pick with possibly the most common writing advice I've ever come across, and that advice is write what you know. Now, I'm not saying it's all bad. There are some parts of this advice that I get. Writing about what you know comes naturally. I think of great writers like Jane Austen who wrote well within the realm of their normal lives. In any given Jane Austen book, she's working with a very familiar setting and writing believable characters based on personal observations. She was known as being a great conversationalist, and that's very clear throughout the conversations that take place in her books. It's hard to picture Jane Austen being as successful had she written from the perspective of a gypsy having adventures in a far-off land. A book like that from her just wouldn't ring as true or seem as authentic. She just doesn't have the same direct experience with the people in that setting as she does with the people in her own English countryside. Just because she's working with a familiar setting doesn't mean she's not branching out in some ways, such as in some of the decisions her characters make or certain things that are happening with the plot. Two very important rules in content creation are research and imagination. Without using these tools, we start to feel stuck and bored, and we make our audience feel the same way. In order to move forward, you have to embrace the unknown in some way or another. You have to challenge yourself, and you have to let yourself be uncomfortable with those challenges on occasion. Doing that helps us to grow and get better regardless of what kind of content we're creating or what kind of situation we're in. I think back to some of the things I'm the most proud of, and they pretty much all have one thing in common, and that's that they were hard for me to do. When I first started making videos, I was really bad at it. The only way I improved was by consistently making videos and getting better and better with each one, instead of just sitting back saying I'm uncomfortable and backing away from making videos altogether. The two things that helped me the most were being in a collab channel where I posted a video every single week, and when I posted a month of daily videos back in 2010. When I was in college, the essays that I was always the most proud of were the ones where I wasn't sure what I wanted to say at the beginning, and I had to work really hard to craft my argument, and I had to do a lot of in-depth research. And the literature that's impacted me the most has never been an easy read. It's usually something that's pretty slow going, something like Shakespeare, where I feel like I have to decode each passage, or The Great Gatsby, which is now my favorite novel. The first time I read The Great Gatsby, it was such slow going. I had to really take each sentence at a time and figure out what was happening in the story, or I'd just get lost and not get anything from it at all. When I was in college, I had this really awesome teacher for literary theory. In one of the best sections of that class, we read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We talked a lot about how the world of Wonderland is really chaotic. When you return from Wonderland, the real world seems to make a lot more sense in comparison. And our teacher gave us this challenge to knowingly fall down the rabbit hole into Wonderland and then be able to emerge enlightened. Purposely allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, to be confused, but then to come out of that experience understanding things a little bit better. I listen to a lot of podcasts every week, and one of my favorite ones is Radiolab. Jad Abumrad, one of the hosts of the show, has given a really good speech about how he continues to progress in radio. He likes to work with this ratio of projects he's really comfortable with that are just kind of automatic, and projects that don't necessarily make sense from the get-go. Every third project he does, he forces himself to get out of his comfort zone and do something new. That ratio works well because it's a good combination of the familiar and the unfamiliar. In other words, the best content creation comes from a combination of writing what you know and falling down the rabbit hole. I think of a series that you all know I love, Harry Potter. In the Harry Potter universe, J.K. Rowling created a completely new setting. No one was familiar with it. She'd made up her own world, but at the same time she was using themes and human emotion that she understood very well. Limiting yourself to certain rules and guidelines when you're creating can be a positive. It can help you improve your focus so that you avoid just throwing up everything that's in your head in a disconnected way. Things like self-imposed time limits on videos can help make the video content more creative. Stylistic limitations in paintings or comics or even sitcoms can make them more interesting. But some limits just don't work for me. For instance, constantly applying write what you know too literally. When that happens, I think content suffers and it stifles your creativity. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments, or feel free to make a video response. Hopefully you'll be seeing me again soon.